Hello friends. So today I'm starting a project, a carport for my camper. So a camper port, I guess, but I'll just keep calling it a carport because that seems to be easier to say. So I'm about 100 yards away from my house, which creates challenges. So I've got my air compressor about halfway. It was I have a thick extension cord, at least 10 gauge, so that hopefully I don't overdraw and get the wire too hot. Then I ran, 3 or 4 air compressor hoses out here to my site. So then from the air compressor, I ran 3 or 4 extension cords as thick as I have, which hopefully is thick enough to then run my chop saw. All my rest of my stuff is cordless, so that'll be helpful. So I'll give you a little view of where I'm setting up, and for my design, I'm going as cheap as I can, but still trying to make a good structure. So for me, I'll be using peeler cores, which have an average diameter of about 3 1/4. I'm using mist trim 5/8 plywood to tie everything together and to create the roof and some of the strength in the structure. So let me give you a little view of where we're at, what we're working with. So I've got my sheets of mist trim plywood, the camper that will go underneath the carport when I'm done. The dimensions on the camper, it sits 8 feet at the height on the top edges of the roof, and a width of about 7 feet, just like an inch or two under. So my goal is to build about a 9-foot wall either side of the carport, and then the peak of the roof, I don't know, probably another 2 or 3 feet above that, just so there's plenty of clearance, with a 10-foot width, with the plan so that when I pull through, I have a little wiggle room with my vehicle and the camper. Just try and give myself a little bit of room so I don't clip anything. So I've got a 10 by 10 pop-up set up here, table, chop saw. Like I said, I'm hoping that I'm running enough amperage out here to my chop saw that I don't want to burn up the windings. I've got my 18-foot by 10-foot spot picked out. I've got a whole bunch of scrap plywood that I will use when I make my ribs. It'll go in all the corners and like the peak of the gable. Just try and give my peeler cores as much strength as I can. So I'll show you those next. Alright, so here's the peeler cores. I think it's 60 or roughly 60 peeler cores here in this pile. They're all tamarack or larch, whichever word you prefer. It's a little denser than fir, and usually has a little bit more natural oils in it, so it just holds up a little bit better, a little denser. So I'm gonna get set up, make some cuts, and once I get one figured out, and then I'll bring you guys along on the construction. Alright, so I just thought I'd throw a quick note in here that my air compressor is at the end of my driveway, and then I'm running out there to my construction site. So I'll just give you guys a little bit of an idea of the distance and challenges I'm working with. Alright, so here's my basic shape I'm looking at 10 feet wide, 8 foot length on the sides, which would be the height of the sidewall. The gable, so that puts it at about 13 feet for the peak. The top, the length of those are coming out at like a ½ inch under 7 feet. So I can fit I can trim down an 8-foot sheet of plywood, or I could just let it hang over the end and give me a little bit more rain and snow protection. So that's my basic design. So now I'm gonna work on kind of setting up a jig. So what I thought I would do is, on my trailer, it's a flat surface. Thought I'd set my frame up onto this, use screws, and kind of set a jig so that everything's flat. And I got to figure out how many of these ribs to make. I'll get those made and hopefully start getting a carport put up. All right, guys. All right. So I finally got a frame put across the top of my trailer and laid out my peeler cores for my rib. So I've got everything squared on my frame using some screws where the peeler cores sit. Got things lined up and getting ready to start putting my joints together. I ended up with, I believe it's a 50-degree angle here at the top of the 8-foot peeler core. That gives me real close to 6 feet. Maybe it was 7. I'll measure again. But for the rib, for the gable, and then I believe this was a 38 degree. Might have to go just a hair more to get things to fit up a little tighter. But all in all, ready to start putting it together. Got this all laid out in the jig. I've got that one side. I'm using plywood as my bracing to put everything together, and then I'm probably gonna do some long lag bolts or something at the joints, a little extra strength. But got that side in, so just got this side lined up. Alright, so now I just need to make a piece for the top for the brace, and we'll keep on going. Alright, there's the top. Okay guys, so just to help strengthen the joints, the corners, I'm going to put a lag bolt in each of them. And so I have a drill bit the size of the inner lag bolt, not the threads. I've got some dish soap to put on there to lubricate it, so it'll go in and then dry, but that helps to get these in before they break or get too stressed. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, just that easy. I gotta hold on a second, I gotta find my balance.
One down.
One down, many to go. Alright guys, so I was trying to figure out how I'm setting my ribs into like a frame or a platform so we can stand them up, lock them in place, and keep everything locked down. So it turns out I had some 2x10s that are 16 feet, and I've got some 2x6 treated lumber that I cut in half. So I've laid them out on some blocks. I've got form stakes so that everything's screwed down, anchored to the ground. When I was trying to square it up, turns out this one 2x10 is about 6 inches longer than the other, so I had everything squared up, put on my treated lumber, and things weren't square. So I had to undo some screws, move things, and then re-square the corners again, and I've got things locked down. So I think we're to the point where we can stand a rib up, do some bracing, and start getting some shape to this. Alright guys, so got the first rib stood up, got some bracing on it, and it's just sitting on the inside ledge. So we'll just keep locking things in as we go. Alright, so I wanted to show you guys. So I'm using the peeler cores, splitting them in half to make my bracing and lag bolting them in. So I'm using those instead of 2x4s just so it keeps the round look, and it's what I'm able to get for a good price, so it just works well for me. So what I did is I chalked a blue line, and I used my saw and cut as deep of a groove on one side as I could. Then that leaves about 3/4 of an inch, so I set my blade to that depth and then turn the log over, mark the line from cut to cut, and cut it again at that depth, so that I'm not making any real crazy miscuts in this face. And then I'm just using, I've got some big spike nails. I mean, you could use chisels, whatever. And I just use these, and I leapfrog them down and just split whatever little bit is remaining to get them apart. And then that gives me essentially a 2x4 out of these peeler cores. So I'll show you that real quick. Woo! It's hard to see this stuff in the snow. I'm tripping on it. Okay, and so just like that, now I've got 2 halves, and I'll be bolting them up as my bracing. All right. Alright guys, so with the help of my son and originally my wife, we've got all the ribs up. Got a total of 9 of them. We're about 13 feet tall in the center, 10-foot width at the base. As you can see, I still got some 2x6 bracing that I got to take off. I've got to split some more of the peeler cores and use those as the bracing. And I got to get some plywood up on the roof, which now that it has snowed and things are icy, I'm a little more hesitant. But I think I am going to at least put some strips up and then put a tarp up. And I think that'll have to be good enough for winter. So you can see I've got some cross angle braces here at the back. So I still need to do that in the front and take off the other lumber. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and do some braces. Like you can see, I've got those braces into the center. I think I'm going to do some braces from the outside walls outward and just try and get things braced up. Don't want the wind or a heavy snow to tweak anything and blow it out. But that's the basic shape of it. And we'll get some other bracing on here. And then hopefully that camper will get backed in here and be good for the winter. Alright guys, so this morning we got the tarp on, changed out some of the bracing, and I think I'm going to call it good for this winter. Maybe in the spring do a little more bracing. Of course I'll keep an eye on it. Just try and tidy things up a little bit. We'll have to get some metal on it next summer, but for now our camper is protected, and so should be good for winter. So walk around to the other side, give you another angle here. And I was able to pull right through. You can see there's lots of clearance. The trailer, of course, the ground isn't level as the structure, but for now it fits through, so I'll have to straighten that up a little bit next summer. But I think all is good. So thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe, hit that like button, and leave a comment. Thank you.